Yes, sir. You know what time it is, everybody. Real Ballroom Talk. That's right. I am your host, Aaron Desoto, and I have a very special friend here this evening, Aaron Santore. That's right.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. Listen, if you've been part of Fred Astaire in the last, 17 years, you've definitely seen this guy out and about at the competition floor, nationals, regionals, interregionals, especially over the last, 5-7 years or so.
7 years, yeah.
This guy has been on the top, either top teacher, top World Cup series, sorry.
Yeah.
He's up there consistently, and today we're going to talk about how you get to the top, how you get up there, because everybody has a good comp once in a while.
Yes.
But it takes a lot of strategy, a lot of hard work and planning to get there consistently and to always be there year after year after year after year. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because I think a lot of people just are unaware.
For sure.
We were talking
For
earlier,
sure.
and you're like, it's amazing how much people aren't aware of what it takes and how to do it. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about your history. We're in Chicago. You started in ballroom dancing in
2006.
2006, and that was just not even a full year after I started in 2005.
Yeah.
You started in the same studio.
I remember I showed up at the studio and
That's
I was
right.
like, this Aaron guy's got it together.
5 months in.
Yeah, we didn't know anything. He's teaching all the lessons. He totally gets it.
2005, then a few months later, 2006, Andre joined. We trained in the same studio.
Yeah.
Just pretty awesome. And, we've been pretty close ever since. And same training, same upbringing.
Yeah.
So, yes, absolutely. And then, like we said, he was always a top teacher. And then the last 5, how many has it been? Like, where you really started taking off and winning? It's been
consistently. It's been, I would say, about 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
Because COVID, even during COVID, it kind of tapered off, obviously, for
Right,
everybody.
right.
But then right when we came back, it was just nuts.
Right.
My competition, I would say, like entry amount average.
Yeah.
It's usually like 430.
Right now, you mean?
That's like my average over these last 7 years. Like for the year, the average is like 430.
Right. So let's talk about that. Because there's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah.
You don't just, oh man, I wish I had all those students who want to do competitions.
Yeah.
And if I was in Andre's studio and I had those students, I could be top teacher too. So let's first start from the beginning where, it starts with meeting with the student.
Yeah.
Why do you have students who choose to do events and competitions? Mm-hmm. And why do some teachers struggle or not get that?
Yeah. I would say the main thing in our studio is that it's a culture, right? So when you come into our studio, you see, and we're a small studio. We have like a 1,400 square foot space. It's small. But you come in, you see all these trophies. You usually see a student who is preparing for an event of some sort, and they're getting after it. And it's just, as soon as they come in, I will say this, like every intro that I have, they were like, well, how do I be like that person? It's just immediate that way. And my students are the best. Like they will go and introduce themselves and talk to each other and they motivate each other. But the new students come in and they're like, ooh, a new friend. And they'll join together and they help me with the process.
So the new students come in because you've created that culture already.
Yes.
But that didn't just start. It didn't magically happen. You had to do that kind of over time.
Yes.
Talk about each student in the beginning. Like, why don't your students just want to do lessons and not challenge themselves at competitions? How did that start? How did they go, you know what, I want to do this competition. I'm enjoying it. I see the benefits. How did they have that switch in their mindset?
It's a lot of, because I'm very competitive, right? And I push, not necessarily like, oh, you have to compete, you have to compete, you have to compete. But when they see the other students that are at this high level, the understanding is if you want to get there, you have to do this. Like that's the way to get there. And it's proven over, countless students that you see them dancing and you go, how are they so good? They see and they compete.
Right.
Like they want to prepare for a goal almost immediately. but it's just something that I tend to talk about from the beginning. Like, I'm like, this is that. I explain events, I sit down, and I honestly, it's just, like I said, it's culture. So everyone just immediately understands the process, and that's the direction they want to go.
Right. And students often come into a studio and they're like, well, I don't want to do competitions. I just want to have fun. And I don't want to get too serious. I would never do that. But then, you look at your students and at the competitions, they're laughing, they're having a blast on the floor, off the floor. So, why are they having fun? Because some people are like, well, I don't want to be like, that's too serious and I just want to enjoy myself. So obviously it can be done.
Right. And it's because I don't motivate them through placement. I motivate them through progress. Like, it's if you decide you want to set yourself up to do this event, I will guarantee and give you everything I have to help you progress so you feel confident and you feel better. And even when you don't feel confident and better, I'll take you out there and I will dance with you and I'll show you. But you have to give it a chance. You can't just, no, it's not for me, I don't feel good. We start the process. I'm not going to put you out there and have you embarrass yourself. Right. And I always promise them, if I don't think you're ready, then we won't do it. But they're always ready. And again, it's camaraderie. So they're all friends. They're all in it together. And it's funny. They all laugh and make jokes because they don't have to dance against each other because they all dance with me.
Right.
So they're like, it's fine.
They're all friends.
They're all friends.
They're
all
because
friends.
In BG, you'd be like, all right, we'd feel bad, like, don't beat my student.
Yeah. But that's just kind of the advantage there. But even still, sometimes they'll say, God, I wish I could dance against her to see where I stand against her.
Oh, against their friends?
Yeah, against their friends, just to see.
A friendly,
like a friendly little competition.
That's fair. Now, so, okay, so you created that culture.
Yeah.
And it really sounds like it stems from your mindset.
Yeah.
You setting the tone from the very beginning. But you do it in a way that is inviting and fun and friendly, and that's why you have that success.
Right.
The other part of the students' side of it is, and to be a top teacher is, you don't put emphasis on results, yet your students get results.
Right.
So what kind of, history work did you have to do to get to the point where you are able to educate your students to do so well? And what else do you do to get them to that point to get those results?
A lot of it is trial and error in the beginning, right? Because, we have our processes and we say things that are silly sometimes that we're like, oh, this is the right thing. And believe me, I didn't get good at teaching rubber boxes by teaching them perfect the whole time. Yeah. In the beginning, I was teaching stuff wrong and I'd be like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then I'll come back and I'd be like, I didn't show it to you that way. I showed it to you this way. What were you practicing? Right. But it starts off, just repetition. I think there's like a Bruce Lee quote that is like, don't fear a man that knows 10,000 kicks. Fear a man who does one kick 10,000 times.
Yeah, right, right.
And it's over repetition. And I sprinkle in, even on my lessons, like it's started off first 15 minutes, fun, we're moving, we're dancing, we're getting it going. Then we'll go into the technical portion of it where we'll be hitting something that we've been working on. And then after that, it's application of what we just worked on. So the process is get your brain going, excited, fun, energy, technique, work on it, and then apply it to what we're already doing. And then the students will literally go and they will practice it. And then they'll come back. And I'll be like, I have no idea what that is that we just did, but this time it's the real thing versus like, whoopsie.
Right.
And it's just through repetition. And if they are committed to the goal, I am committed to the goal. And if they're going to do the competition, then I'm going to give them things they have to do. And if they don't do them, I question whether or not they are as serious as I am because they told me they were serious.
So give an example of that.
So, for example, if I teach you this, let's call it, let's just go basic with cube motion, right? We're working on the cube motion in the box step and into a crossover, right? And you go home for the weekend and you come back and you have a lesson on Monday and we're like, okay, did you get time to do that? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, well, now we're going to waste this time on your lesson with recapping that, and we could be progressing forward because you said you were going to practice. And I was like, okay, but I understand it got busy. Right. It was the weekend.
Right.
But next time I need you to do it, and I'm honest with them. I go, if you want to dance like these others and if you want to work and grow and be the best version of yourself, you got to stay committed too.
Right.
And some of the students are like, well, I don't feel good in my dress or my body, blah, blah. I'll even talk to them about fitness. I'll talk to them about exercising and what they can do, and I'll give them ideas. And it's up to them to do those things outside of, because I'm just a dance teacher, but I will still hold them accountable. I'll be like, did you run like you said you were going to run?
So you get their goal.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, Andre, I want to do this competition, September comp, interregional, sign me up. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's do it. Then you go, okay, cool. I got you.
Got it.
And then the plan in your mind and the treatment changes. You hold them accountable.
Yes.
And, not only in the dancing, but outside of that, which I think is awesome because that plays a big role in it.
It does.
You only see them, 40, 80, 120 minutes a week.
Right.
It's a lot of other minutes during the week
without
that they
me.
could be doing bad habits or things that's going to slow down their progress.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
So that's really cool. Now, top teacher, right?
Yeah.
Along the same lines of still dealing with the student, to be a top teacher, let's talk about how important it is that we don't care about the results, but the results do make a difference.
They do.
And talk about why they make a difference in the point system that we use in the Fred Astaire system, regionals, nationals. How important is it, and how much weight does it have in the determination of top teacher?
It actually has a lot of weight. So placements do matter, because the higher placement you are, the more points you get towards top overall teacher or top teacher in the specific division. And how I think about it is I've been behind maybe 100 entries before.
100 total entries for the comp.
100 total entries for the competition.
Like you got 400, they got 500.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've come back and beat them.
Right.
Because my students will make the finals, their students don't. So I'm scoring points, or my students will beat their students. And so it comes into a strategy of knowing age divisions and knowing who you're competing against and who the certain students are and where they place in the previous competition. I wonder how many teachers do what I do, where you go back, right? And I go back, and once they release the book, I go back and look to see where the certain students placed. Where
in
my
the previous competitions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nationals, everything. Sometimes the national ones takes me a long time. It's a long time.
It's like you're studying film, in sports.
Studying film, figuring out where they are. If one of my students lost to a student that, we're really close to, I'll go back and see how they placed, where they were, what dance it could be, what it is. And there's so many different strategies that go into it. But I just, again, I go back and I look and I just try to figure it all out point-wise to score more points so I can come from the bottom and be on the top.
So if you have a student that is in a division and all of a sudden this lady shows up and is like, that other lady usually beats your student.
Yes.
And so you see that, you did your homework. What's the action? Is it a pep talk? Is it a switch? What do you usually do in that situation?
So usually what we do is we'll review their videos, right? And we'll go back and we'll look and we'll say, okay, what do we feel? Because she's in this heat with us right now.
Right.
That we were doing differently than we normally do. And so we'll look at it and we'll actually see the person, if we can, as much, and find what they're doing better or they're doing more efficiently. And then we'll change our game and tighten up our stuff. So we'll work on our strengths to make them stronger. But I take the weaknesses and I just freaking hammer on them. I don't care, because you need everything to be a strength.
Right.
Especially when you're getting to the top. Like, everyone does everything.
Right.
Everyone is good. Everyone is paying attention to their diet. Everyone is
Right.
rehearsing. Everyone is taking lessons. You guys are all taking coaching.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it. So how can we figure out a way to leapfrog
edge.
next time,
Yeah.
that edge? And I'll tell you, I go back and I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, who's this name? I know this name. And I look and,
Do the students know those people, or is it just?
Oh, they know.
Okay.
Oh, they know. As
So
soon as
you're
they see
making
'em.
them aware, like, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I saw she's
Yeah.
in there. All right, so what are we gonna do? Blah 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 blah.
Right.
So they're on the same page, because
Yeah.
like in NFL, you've got the scouts and the head coach studying the film, and then they take it to the players. So and they join in, and we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
The students all know each other.
Yeah.
They know who beats them. They know who
Yeah.
who doesn't beat them. And if someone who usually doesn't beat them beats them,
Ooh,
they know.
that's a problem.
Yeah, they know. And so as much as we're aware, like I'm aware of everything.
Right.
They're aware of their little world, which is
Yeah.
who am I dancing against? And
Yeah. Now talk a little bit about, for people who are watching, just a basic rundown of the point system. Let's say, because you're like, my student finishes higher, my student beats you. Like, what's the point value in that? If we're in a quarterfinal, right, and you have your student in there and another teacher has their student in there, what's the breakdown for the callbacks all the way into the final 6, say.
Yeah, so it just depends on each event because each event has different point system. But let's
Right.
talk nationals, right?
Yeah.
So quarterfinals, if you make it to a semifinal, you get 1 additional point.
1 additional point.
And then to the finals, you get 1 additional point.
So it's 2 points.
Yes, and now there can be up to 8 placements in a final, and it goes exactly like that: 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right.
If you do that, or it just goes down to, it goes down to whatever 2.
Yeah.
And if the person you're dancing against doesn't make it to the final, like someone like the teacher,
Right.
you get 8 points, they get no points.
First place would be 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
First place would be 8. So that's almost already in that one dance making up for the 10
Yeah.
entries that I don't have.
Yeah. That's a
Almost
8 point.
already.
That's an 8 entry swing.
Yes, but it's 10 total.
Well, and you get 1 for the entry, but you both get that,
But
right?
still the callbacks.
Oh, the callback. So you get 1 point for showing up.
Showing up.
Right? And everybody gets that. And then you got 1 for the quarter, 1 for the semi,
Yeah.
and then whatever place there.
Right.
So that's possible if you got 10. And if they didn't make any callbacks,
Right.
yeah, that's 10
That's
entries.
10. And now I'm already back.
That's a big difference.
It's huge.
That's how you make that swing.
That's how you make the swing.
Well, that's why it's important to strategize and put people in the right
I
positions.
know where they're going to be. Yeah, I know what division. I know where we're going to go. I never tell my students, but I know where we're most likely going to place before we even get into the and when we're in the final.
You already kind of know how many points are going to be there.
Be there.
Yeah.
And if we get a little extra, I'm like, didn't see that coming.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
Good
That's
for
awesome.
us.
Very
Yeah.
good. So you've got so that's obviously a lot of planning there, and I do
yeah.
wonder how many teachers, very far and few between, go to that route. Now there's probably maybe 1 or 2 other ones, but maybe not.
Right.
But that's a big important thing. Now, so you've got the students, right? Now, competitions showing up to you gotta compete often.
Yeah.
Right. So how important is it to you can't just win this thing or be in the top of the World Cup series by just showing up to your regionals.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
what do you got to do to showing up wise? How many comps do you got to go to?
So usually what happens is like for me, the beginning of the year is a little bit more scarce, like where I compete and what I do. But I would say that I usually do about 2 comps a month from the second half of the year up.
Okay.
So so in July, I'll be at the Indiana comp and then I'll be in Vegas, right? And then August, I will
Dance-a-thon.
be dance-a-thon no matter
Yep,
what, right?
yep.
Then September, I have
Get the Illinois
Illinois regional.
regional.
There's another regional in there somewhere. That and then I'll go to Carolina interregional, and then I'll go to NDC, and then there's Holiday Star Ball.
Yeah.
And the only tough part is like if we're talking World Cup series.
Yeah.
I could never not come to our regional because it will get me the most points essentially.
You get the most points
Yes.
for the regional.
Yes, and it's so close to home, everyone can come.
Right.
So you will get the most points. I
Right.
mean, if you can go to nationals and bring 9 students and do 900 entries, I mean, that's a pretty powerful thing. But if that's all you're doing, if you just go to 3 nationals and that's it, and you don't do any regionals or anything like that, you're not going to beat me.
So tell me again. So you got the regionals, the interregionals, and the nationals.
Yes.
Which ones get you the most points?
Nationals will get you the most points.
Nationals get you the most.
Yes.
Then regionals.
And then interregionals.
And then interregionals.
for World Cup series.
I see. So there's a strategy there. How many nationals do you try to hit a year?
I'm going all 4 this year.
4.
Yeah, so the virtual comp is the first national of the
Hey,
year.
don't forget about that virtual.
Don't you
comp.
forget about it. Everyone's like, I don't want to do it. But if you want to win the World Cup series,
And I think they did like double
Double
points or
points,
something
buddy.
like that. See, that's
Double
the thing.
points.
Like, you know all the rules.
I do.
Let's talk about that. I mean, you know the strategy at the competition itself, but you're also aware of how to win. And I always, explain. I think I was explaining to Declan the other day. It's a lot of people win because they understand the rules and how to win.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't win or are just confused because they weren't really sure what it took.
right.
So talk a little bit about, the rules. And you don't have to give away all your tips and
of
your
course, of
secrets.
course.
But a little bit of like, give me an example of a couple of rules that some people may not be aware of. Something along those lines, or things that like, oh, I didn't even think.
So
about that.
a pretty interesting one that people
Yeah.
don't know, which I find very
Yeah.
comical. No offense to you guys who don't know this. At nationals, in order to win top overall, you have to have at least 2 students, right? You have to touch at least 2 people and
2 VIPs.
two VIPs.
yeah.
No, 2 students
Just 2 students dancing.
touching, 2 students dancing at the nationals.
Yeah.
And 250 minimum.
Mm.
There were like 3 teachers who were standing up there that didn't get any money, prize
They had
money
the
for being a top
envelopes,
teacher.
but they were blank.
They didn't even get an envelope. They just got a trophy. They just got a trophy.
Yeah, okay.
Because they were shy by like 5 entries or 10 entries.
So why were they up there then? They had
because
what?
they still got to get a trophy. They still got to be tipped.
They had enough points.
Yes.
They just weren't. They didn't bring enough entries.
Right. They had enough points. They were killing it. They just didn't have enough.
Entries or people?
Both.
Yeah.
If you're dancing with
That's
one
a big
student
one.
who's doing 250 entries, doesn't matter.
That's a big one.
You need 2. And
two.
they have to be from your own studio because some people be like, let me just dance with your student. Doesn't work that way. They try to like, oh, well, I'll just grab somebody else's student. Doesn't work that way.
They have to be registered to
With you.
to your school.
With
So that's a
your
good
school.
little tip. And that recently happened, didn't it?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a thing.
So there you go. There's a little insight. I told
Yes.
Andre I'm not going to make him tell all the secrets because he's still, right now, you're currently on top
first,
of the
yeah.
leaderboard.
Yeah,
First
in
place
first.
halfway through the year. World Cup Series. I think that's a good enough tip.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're still in the game.
still first. Yeah.
He's still playing. He's still
Yeah.
winning. So that's a good one. All right. Very good. So we've got a little bit of understanding of the students.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how you get them from the beginning, how you take somebody who walks through the door, you get them in the right mindset. It's part of the culture. They become, competitors.
Right.
Then we talk about strategy at the competitions with the students, putting them in the right divisions that's going to get them the most points and get you up there too. Let's talk a little bit about the students' benefit of doing all this because obviously they're getting a lot. We're touching on top teacher, you're winning, but the students are doing this for themselves too.
For sure.
So can you touch on all the different aspects that the students are? What benefits are they getting from doing these competitions and doing traveling and doing the entries and all that stuff?
So, it just depends on what benefit each person is looking for. So, for example, I do have, let's call her Sabrina. She's going for the sake of wanting to place well in the World Cup Series and to compete and
That's
do
the
well.
other side of it.
That's
they can
her
win.
motivation. Yeah,
Right.
she wants to place and be in the top 2. And She
Right.
wants to do it as well. She finds a lot of fun climbing the leaderboard over other people who are, who are doing large amounts of entries, but she starts passing them up because she places well when she dances.
Right.
So, for her, that's a huge benefit. A lot of times I have several students who have really stressful careers, right? And they feel like when they do this and they come to these events, they get to be someone else and they get to dance as a different individual and they don't have to worry about their regular life. And, they focus all that energy that they basically, I would say, hold in from the stress, and they get to release it here, and it helps better their life overall, mentally, physically as well, but mentally, big time. So that release, and again, there's several different people doing different things. One of my students, I won't say their name because again, it's personal stuff, but they were, they had a drinking problem, and they just were kind of a little lost in the world after they retired and everything, and I helped them completely stop drinking, change their diet, get back into shape. And so, the dancing has assisted them in creating this world where what they want to do, it brings them back to life. Basically, they told me, they're like, it brought me back to life. It took me away from all these issues that I was having because I didn't have anything. And now it's making my life fulfilled again.
Right.
And so each one of my students has a different thing. I have a student that has mild cognitive impairment, right? And the big thing about it is it creates so much muscle memory for her that it helps her brain stay active, and it actually slows down the process of going into dementia. And she's so thankful, and her husband calls me and he's so thankful. And it's just something like it gives people purpose and it helps make their life better. And then the competitions itself, it just sets up goals to help push them along even further, because you set a goal, you reach the goal, you plateau, got to set a new goal. And it just keeps layering and layering and layering.
It's awesome. So you've got people who love the competitive side, like you mentioned, Sabrina, who love to see, climb the leaderboard. Maybe they had played sports earlier. They're just into that type of thing. But you got the other ones who are just like, listen, this is making me live a healthier life.
Right.
You're probably extending my life at this point, and you're extending the quality of my life. Let's do this. I'm having fun. Let's jump in. So there's a lot of different reasons and ways to get into it. So I like to talk about that. I want to talk about 2 more things.
Sure.
the first one I want to talk about is you personally, how your mindset has to be every single day, because, I always use the Rocky quote, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No.
Even though you set this culture and shoes, right, there's got to be some ups and downs, and week to week, it's got to be a constant fight and battle.
Right.
Nothing worth getting in this high of an achievement is ever easy.
Never.
So talk about your mindset and what consistency do you need to keep this up month after year after year after year?
Yeah, so for me, what I do, because again, not all of us are the same, and other people have other things, is I am addicted to exercising. So the exercising is my release. Again, I love dancing. I love, getting out there and just getting after it and competing with these guys and dancing, and I like music, everything, but exercising is the best thing for me, because last December I did 645 entries, and I finished, and I was like, anyone else want to do any more entries? I was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's just I'm almost 40, and I am probably in the best shape of my entire life because I dance all day and I exercise every day. My diet, thank goodness for my wife, shout out, is amazing. She controls it. She gives me vitamins. She does all the things I would never do.
No.
Without her, dude, I'd be eating Whoppers and drinking Coke still.
Burger King,
Drinking Burger
BK.
King, let's go. I miss it. Burger King, shout out. But I'm not saying I eat perfect, but the diet is tremendous. So my body it feels good. I don't wake up and have like aches and pains. And, I'll get up and I'll dance. Like even after this, right now, I just danced 250
you seem fine.
entries.
You're like,
guys,
you didn't break a sweat out there.
too easy. So, but it's diet. I drink sometimes. Like I just make sure I'm taking care of myself, because for them, I have like 20 competitors. They rely on me.
Yeah. And that's fair. You require that from them, and you hold yourself to an even higher standard.
Yes.
So I think that's a fair trade-off.
My students can't even drink at competitions.
And why is that?
Because they dance with me, and I'm dancing a lot with all of them, right? And my students will drink during the banquet, because that's when they're allowed to celebrate. Right. They're allowed to have a good time. They understand between each other that if they decided they wanted to have a few glasses of wine, it's going to slow them down, it's going to make them sluggish, then it's going to tax me. In turn, affects all of their friends, and their friends don't like that.
Right.
Because their friends want my best, and I can't do my best if you're not at your best. So if you want me at my best, you have to be at your best.
There you go.
Yeah.
You set that tone, and you
from
hold
the beginning.
them to it.
From the
That's
beginning.
awesome.
Yeah.
And it's working. So
It
there
is.
you go.
It really is. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, last little thing I've been asking. You've been in the business for 17 years. What's your favorite part of this business? Why are you staying in this career? What do you truly enjoy and love the most about what you do?
I've built through this company some lifelong friends in almost every single state. I go everywhere. I know everyone. I can go to any state and call them up, and I know that they'll be there for me, and they can help me and guide me and literally, like, I'm family.
Yeah.
It's the family aspect of this company, and just the guidance that I've had over the years and the direction. When I was a lost teenager, 20, I guess as a teenager. Whatever.
He's like teens, early 20s, maybe a year or two.
Early 20s, whatever, somewhere in there. But they were always there for me. They always gave me support. They always motivated me. The company is always there for me. And so even when I have questions, Elizabeth Joy, I'd probably talk to her more than I talked to my mom in December. I called her every day to figure out more about the point system and everything, and they're always willing to help me.
Yeah.
And I think by me always wanting from them, they're growing, because sometimes they don't have the answers for me.
Let me figure that out and get back to you.
We didn't think about that. We'll get back to you.
So there's another sign of you're doing things right and you're going to be a top teacher is when you're asking about rules and how to win, and they're like, good question. Let me figure that out. So that's awesome. Hey, Andre, appreciate your time, man. Your insight. I think that was very helpful to a lot of people, to a lot of teachers, hopefully, up and coming rising star teachers, but also just the students to be like, oh, I didn't even know that was a whole thing. And maybe they're inspired to be like, I'd like to be a part of, it's almost like a part of that elite program, that competitive program.
We are elite.
That's right.
Elite,
and it's fun too. It's not,
it is very fun.
It's enjoyable. It's not just a competitive, it's too serious.
No.
It's fun and it's a good journey. So appreciate your time, my
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And thank y'all for tuning in to Real Ballroom Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Desoto. Once again, Andre Santore. Hey. See you next time.